This video that I'm showing you right now, which I will provide a link to in the video description, is the first video on this mod that I made for PC. As time goes on, I'm adding more and more features. This is going to be a somewhat major update, but the next update is going to be really major. Something really exciting is coming. I hope to definitely have it to y'all before Christmas time. But I'm officially going to name this mod TD6 Unchained. Before I begin, the first thing I want to mention is that in the previous video I was mentioning about mass cops. This is the European version, so it works the same in the US of course. If I go to options and then I change difficulty to hard, cops are on and traffic is off. If I race in Egypt, for example, where there usually is not traffic or cops, there's going to be mass cops. And the problem with this is at least the US version will crash significant enough that I should just mention to be cautious with it. According to my knowledge, it's not going to mess up your player data when it crashes, it's just going to crash the game. But if you're planning on do a speed run, then you probably don't want to race on a hard mode with mass cops unless you're willing to take the losses from crashes. 3 things to mention. Number 1 is that in this video description, even though this video is 55 minutes long, you can just watch the first 6 minutes of it to get up to speed if you have not seen it. Second of all, I was informed by one person that when he tried to race with class 4 cars, the game would crash. And it turns out that the problem was he didn't have all cars unlocked, and the way I did this, it kind of makes sense now that it won't work unless you have all cars unlocked. So I'm going to be providing some player data in the attachment where I have it labeled, and you're just going to have to take the inner folder that says player data and put it in your TD6 folder to run it. Should you not have all cars unlocked, if you have your own player data after all these years that this game has existed, then obviously you can use your player data, it won't matter. And I have this for the US and the European versions. Second of all, I got someone else who is playing TD6 from a Windows XP, which was kind of shocking to me because I didn't know those computers would still run to this day. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to touch on that. In the attachment, I don't have the entire game. I only have a few files, and you're going to have the files from the game from another source, hopefully from your own original disk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my original disk, I'm going to put it in my computer and wait for it to pop up. So I don't know if this is going to work on an XP computer, but instead of double clicking on the icon here, you're going to right click on it. And I guess it depends on the version of Windows you have, but I'm going to say open autoplay, and then you can't see it, but it says open folder to view files. It's one of the options in a box that pops up, and this is it. To get the majority of the files, the path is as follows. Go to setup, and then insta data, game data, and then common. So this is the majority of the game files. I'm going to move that to the side and make a new folder on my desktop, and I'm going to call it TD6 Unchained. So I'm just going to copy all of these and paste them in here. Yeah, this might take a bit, so I'm going to fast forward the video. Okay, it finished. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just close this and take out the disk. So you won't be using the original disk anymore. That's all you're going to use it for. Now with that done, delete this old exe so that we don't accidentally run it. This is going to be attachment to this video. This is the US version here, so I'm going to open up the US version. I'm just going to copy all of these and paste it in here. Now we don't have any player data. If you have your own player data, as long as you have all cars unlocked, then you can use that player data. You can race with class 4 cars without crashes. But very important is to make a copy of your player data, just in case it crashes and you lose your player data. That happened to somebody and I felt real bad, but I gave him max credits and unlocked all tracks and cars. So now what I have here is, if you click on the inner folder and cut it and paste it here, this is player data with all tracks unlocked, so I can delete this folder now. You should be able to run the game now. I'm going to render it to a window throughout this video, but I just want to show the changes that were made for those that don't want to see how I made the changes, because that's what the majority of this video is about, similar to how the last one was. But let's go take a look at what I changed. As you can see here, the top text is a bright purple, the text here is yellow, and the dark gray text is now a color similar to the panels that it's on, so it looks better, I think. But when we select the car, it looks really good like this. And after a race, it's going to pull up like this, so I think it looks pretty good because the yellow and the red go good together. I don't know how to change this red to another color. If I did, then maybe I would choose a different font color. I was thinking about going with green, but green just looks, it's okay, I guess. If you want to change it, you would just change these. You would just decrease this one to 0, 0 and this one to 0, 0, and then this would be pure green. We only have $40,000, but I have something that will allow us to have max credits. It's very easy. If you go buy a car from class 1, you have to go buy the Plymouth Prowler. I was thinking about what car is best to apply this to, because people want to keep the game interesting. They may not want to have max credits. And I was looking at videos on YouTube, and the Plymouth Prowler was the least raced car that I could see. So all you have to do is buy it. So that gives you a decent amount of cash. But look what happens when you sell it. Sometimes it's going to say you're going to have negative credits at the end, but this time it just said positive credits. But whatever it says, it doesn't matter. As soon as you say accept offer, you're going to have full credits. So that's one additional change besides the fonts. If we go to the race menu, let's actually buy a car and keep it. So now that we have max credits, I can just purchase the McLaren. Go to Cop Chase. Now we have all tracks in Cop Chase. I uploaded a video 2 days ago showing a cop chase in Egypt Ford, and now you can compete on speedrun with cop chases, and I'm going to talk about speedrun in a minute before I turn over the video to those who want to see how I made these changes. Like, for example, Switzerland. You kind of start a little bit away from the racers more than some of the single tracks, but especially like in Egypt, you start really far away. And Lexa did a similar thing for the PS version. But a month before that, I made this video here demonstrating with the remastered version, but it also works for the US version, but now it's no longer needed because now you have it in the menu. You don't need this anymore. But I have this video with me racing with supercharged cars to bust supercharged cars, which makes it more challenging. I go through all the forward tracks in there, and a comment about this is that I had to take out the word circuit from the tracks because it was overlapping with no arrests and it looked messy. So when you go to the single race menu, to the practice menu, you're no longer going to see circuit, but that's why. You're going to see 21 arrests and Hong Kong backward. It makes no sense. 2 or 3 have that. I guess it's just 2. As of right now, I don't know how to fix that. I don't know where these numbers are coming from to tell you. Maybe in an update in the future, I can fix that. And another thing I did was for the BMW and the McLaren, I changed their sounds because default sound of the McLaren is the same as the Viper, and the BMW is the same as the Plymouth Prowler, which is not really desirable, at least in my opinion. Since I like the sound of the Shelby Cobra from Class 3, I'm going to actually assign that to the BMW. And for the McLaren, well, I watched this clip for it running. That kind of sounds like the Jaguar from Class 3.
3, 2, 1.
It's not exact, but it's pretty close. So I'm going to change the McLaren to that sound. So now I provided player data that has maximum credits if you want it. You just have to buy the Plymouth Prowler and then sell it. You're able to race with any upgraded car on any track. You're able to do a cop chase on any track. But I have another video on challenges, which there is no way to add all tracks to the menu for challenges, and I don't even know how to change the tracks for challenges as it is in the EXE itself. So as I showed in the video with the Stop the Racers, I have a track switch app that I'm going to update and make it compatible with this. So in the next update of TD6 Unchained, you will be able to use it, and I will explain how. But I do in this video description, and I mentioned that the only track that you cannot race with this mod in challenge mode is mysteriously Hong Kong backward. So that's coming next. For speedrun, I got a request that maybe I should separate upgraded from non-upgraded categories because it seems like a lot more people like to race without upgrades. And I added a cop chase category now that we can do a cop chase for all tracks. So if I get this challenge thing up, I'm going to make a column for challenges as well. And for those who don't know the URL, this is the URL for speedrun individual levels. If we go to the full game leaderboard, we can see that it's just tournaments, cop chase, and challenges. So to make the individual levels page complete, we would just need to have one more column for challenges and that would be it. So that will be in the next update, but that's just a small part that's going to be in the next update. The next update is going to be huge. Alright, so for those who want to see how I did all this, including how I made the player data, everything, max credits, cop chase, everything, then feel free to continue the video. But for those who don't want to do that, just give me some more feedback on how it looks, and if you like these car sounds for the BMW and the McLaren instead of the default ones. And have a nice day. So I'm going to open up this folder again. This is for developers, so for those who maybe don't want to watch a long video, you're not going to get every detail on how I did this, but I provide the hex editor just in case it goes offline. Because I have a lot of images that are matching this hex editor exactly, so it's there. But we can take a look at the US version, for example. I now have the traffic and cop locations. I originally made such an attachment for the European version in the previous video's attachment, but now I have both, just in case you want to modify the traffic in some way, you know exactly what line number it is. But all of these are going to be in this video that I'm touching on, and I also have this. I made this spreadsheet today giving almost all the information you need to know about the cars if you want to mod this game. I shared all of this information with Aleph, the one man responsible for the remastered version. Over time, not like this, I'm sure he's gonna go crazy when he sees this. Not that he needs it anymore, but it's quite a bit of things. So it's there for you. I have one for the US version and for the European version. Most of the content in them are the same, but anyway. Alright, so for those who want to see how I did all this, including how I made the player data, max credits, cop chase, everything, then feel free to continue the video and you can follow along with those screenshots if you want, but it's all in the video. But for those who don't want to do that, have a nice day. This is just me now modifying what I have from the previous video so that you can see all the changes I made, because in that video I start with the default exe and I make it into what it is there, and now I'm going to make it from there into what it's going to be now. So I'm going to click on the download link. Alright. This is the US version. I'm going to be modifying the European version also. Okay, so this is the US version. I have the disc for the US version, but I got the European version from a friend. I still play the US version, but I have that one so that I could make it for y'all. Just the exe files. I don't want to provide too many game files because this is obviously copyrighted stuff. But first of all, I'm going to delete this exe. This exe is only 274 kilobytes. That's how you kind of know it's the original disc. At least the original disc that I have. Maybe they came out with a later version that it's larger, because in the US version exe that I have here, it's 772 kilobytes. And whoever made this exe is the people that you really should be thanking. Whoever transformed this into this or updated this into this exe that it's 772 kilobytes. It made all of this possible for me. But to not accidentally run this, I'm going to delete this old exe right now. I'm going to rename this to TD6 Unchained version 0.0. And by the end of this video we'll have 1.0. So what I want to do is create player data for you, and I'm going to show you how to do it using a hex editor, which I'll show the hex editor that I'm going to be using right now. The link is in the video description in the previous video. It's here. I'm going to be using the 188 kilobyte version, so I'm going to just download it. Why not? It's here. Extract all. Alright. And I'm just going to take this and cut it and paste it in here and X out of that. Okay, so now with the hex editor in place, the hex editor has nothing to do with the game. We're just going to be using it to modify the game. But let me run the game. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is render it to a window for this presentation, not full screen. And I'm going to disable all movies because they're just annoying to me. I'm just going to call player 1. So if you have player data already, move it out before you put this player data in, so you have your original. Okay, so now I'm done with that part. I'm just going to X out of the game. Now the player data folder is there. I'm going to just copy this and rename this blank for later, just in case, so I don't have to do that part again. But now I'm going to take the hex editor, and I'm going to open. When you put in the folder, it's going to automatically go and it's going to search the folder that it's in. I'll go to player data, and I'm going to click on the bigger file. That's the only one I'm going to be editing from this point. The smaller one, I can just show you real quick, is just the player name, or player names if you have more than one player. But I want to open up the bigger one where everything else is and click on 5669 like I did previously but did not mention. And I'm going to scroll down to the very end. All you have to do to unlock all tracks and all cars is to change all of these 00s to 01s. There's 16 of them just on the second to last line here that I highlighted. So I'm just going to highlight all of these, and then I already copied this to the clipboard. So I'm going to highlight all these other 15 00s and then paste 15 times. And that's it. So now the player data, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to rename it to unlocked cars and tracks. $40,000 to start. When we go into the game now, we still have $40,000, but if we go to the practice menu, Paris is there. That's a giveaway. You can't race in Paris by default. Now it has all the tracks and all the cars. So now you can actually use this if you didn't have all of them unlocked before, you didn't want to race all those annoying tournaments. Okay, so now what I want to do is show you how to get max credits. So have all 9s in your money. The codes on various sites to get that going never worked for me personally. So this is a sure way to do it. I'm finished with the player data. So I'm going to X out of the hex editor. I shouldn't have X'd out of it. I could have just opened up the exe with this because that's what we're going to be editing next. What I'm going to be doing is there's a way that you can buy a car and then sell it, and when you do those two things, any car doesn't matter. You just have to modify it from the exe. You're going to get max credits because they pay you to buy the car and then they pay you to sell the car too, as they always do. But it's a huge amount of cash. But what I'm going to do is when you open up the game and you start out fresh and you go to buy a car, it's class 1. I'm going to make it so that when you buy one of the class 1 cars, it's going to do this for you, and it just takes one code adjustment. I was kind of debating what car to choose to do this because some people may not want to get max credits every time they get a car to keep the game interesting. And I don't know, when I've seen videos on YouTube, it seems like the Plymouth Prowler is the least raced car that I've seen. Every other car I've seen raced, but not that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this to that one. So when you buy this car and sell this car, you'll get max credits. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for the cars. I'm going to search for van, whole word, like I had been doing in the previous video and the one that I referred to before it. And now I'm going to search from this point upwards, hexadecimal. I'm going to search for a hidden car. As of right now, as I mentioned in the previous video, this is going to be 00060000 up. And I have to take off whole word and then search up. It's going to be the third one. So that's 1, 2, 3. That's the Ford Mustang GT. The Prowler is actually 2 cars below it. This is the Dodge Concept car, and this is the Plymouth Prowler. The way it works is after the dot that you change to add a car into the game, as I showed in the previous video, there's 3 nulls. Then there's going to be 3 characters of some kind. In this instance, the third one is a null. But after that, this one right here, these 3 are actually what you use to change the price of the car. So I can show that real quick just for those who are interested. In the past, I showed the creator of the remastered version how to change the car price among many other things. But right now, if we go to the Plymouth Prowler, it's $26,000. But if I change the first number to like 11 instead, and I go back to the game, now we can see that the price is decreased a little bit. And it's kind of random. There's no real pattern to these. There's a little bit of a pattern, but if you want to change the price of the cars, it's really smart to use the price of the cars that are already there. In short, these 3 are used to control the price of the car. But this one right here, to the right of them, this one, if we just increase this to the maximum, which is FF. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, maximum, if we look at this for hex codes, the left column is just the index. The right is the hex code. So it starts out with 00 and then it goes all the way to FF. This is just the 255, or say 256 different hex codes that you can have. They would make up all these characters. All that you see here were those, and this is what they look like in the rightmost column of the hex editor. This is what they look like as characters and not as numbers. But this number right here, if we increase it to FF, it's actually going to make the car have a negative price. That's all I had to do. So now all I have to do is just open it up, and sometimes the window does not render back to a window like it should. It goes to full screen, and it did in this instance, but I edited that part out of the video. I'm going to go to Garage Buy a Car now. So this is going to be in the game now for you. You see here that price is a huge negative number. So I'm going to purchase it, accept, and I have a decent amount of cash now. That if you're a dedicated player, you'll have that amount or around there. Now I'm going to sell it. And it's going to say you have negative credits, but don't worry about that. When you say accept offer, you're going to have full credits. So it's going to work like this from now on. That whole process, as I mentioned, is just going to set that in place for the Plymouth Prowler. I'm going to do the same for the European version's EXE as well, for those who want to follow along and have that one, because the line numbers are different. This is an 820 kilobyte EXE, the other one was 780, so they're a little bit different. Line numbers are different, etc. So I'm going to click 5669. I'm going to search for whole word van, and now I'm going to search for hexadecimal 00060000, and I'm going to uncheck whole word now, and I'm going to search up. It's going to be the third one, so 1, 2, 3. That's the Ford Mustang GT that we borrowed its name for the McLaren F1 GTR from the buy menu. This is the Dodge concept car, but the one beneath it right here, this is the Plymouth Prowler. And so then this is the character that we're going to increase to FF. And just ignore the other files I have in here. Again, I have to change because I go between two versions. This happens, I have to check that constantly. And the process to unlock all cars and tracks is the exact same, so I didn't show that part. I already did that for this one. So we start out with player 1 and we have 40,000. I go now to the buy menu because I made that modification, and I find the Plymouth Prowler. It's a negative price, so I'm going to buy it. And then I'm going to sell it. See, it works the same exact way. So now we're all set. So what I wanted to do next was I wanted to change the car sounds for the BMW and the McLaren. So in the EXE that we were editing earlier, I'm going to scroll down to the end of this mess and you start seeing English. I'm going to click anywhere and I'm going to search for this 00, then 03, and then 4 more zeros, hexadecimal in the upward direction, and I'm going to uncheck whole word. The first one that's going to come up is the Toyota GT1, so we don't want to affect that one, but if I go one more, that's going to be the McLaren. And the way it works is the car code is, you see the dot where the dot is? It's going to be, well, we see some characters after that. This is for the car price, as I mentioned already. This one, if we would make that FF, then the car would be a negative price that you would actually make money from buying the car. But then, not the first one, but the second one is the code to change the car sound. So unlike those who maybe were like me, that they were playing with the game and they said, okay, I go to the cars folder, then I scroll down and there's sounds, and then they have these WAV files with the different sounds, and you can literally change the file or rename them and things like that. That's not the same as what I'm doing. I'm actually going to change which one of these the car is assigned to. So you still have to have the EXE refer to one of these, but it's not going to, you're not going to lose the sound for the other cars. That's what I'm trying to say. We're just changing the assignment. But I made this spreadsheet here that is for the US version. I'm going to show where the McLaren and the BMW sounds are in the European version right now also, of course. But let's first search for the default sound for the Shelby Cobra. So the Shelby Cobra is here. The sound code is 6 or 06 to be more precise. So all we have to do is change this 13 to a 06. I'm going to put this on the side here and I'm going to run the game. And let's see what the McLaren sounds like now. Okay, so I assigned the wrong sound to the car. I want to apply that one to BMW. So actually the Jaguar is the one I need to search for. But now we can remember 6 when we want to apply to the BMW in just a little bit. But I have the car class here too. I'm going to filter, because this is Microsoft Excel, I'm going to filter all except for class 3 to quickly find the Jaguar. It's here. The code for that is 12. So I'm going to press Control C to unfilter. So the code I should have put was 12. So when I open the game now, there we go. And I'm going to click down here. I'm going to search again 40300. That's a class 4 car for those who didn't watch the previous video. But this is the McLaren dot that I just did. So I need to go up one more. It turns out that's where it is. I have the cars in order in the spreadsheet here in the index according to the order that they're in the EXE. So if I scroll down, the McLaren is here. And it's going to be like this for both the European and the US versions. They're in the same order and everything. The next class 4 car, if we look in column B, the next one is BMW. So I'm going to say find next. And this is the same process. So it's going to be the second dot after that there. And this is going to be 06, which is the Shelby Cobra sound. Okay. I'm going to do the same for the European version, so I went down to the bottom where the English starts. I'm going to search for a hexadecimal and upwards, uncheck whole word. This is the Toyota, this is the McLaren. So this is going to be, it's the same code, so it's 12. I'm going to search up again. Well, this is still the McLaren, I need to go up. Okay, here, so this is going to be 6 instead of 0B. Okay. Opening up the game. Okay, so the BMW. McLaren. Okay. The next thing I want to do is, well, you have to buy a car to do the next step. So I'm just going to go ahead and buy, let's say, the McLaren. If we go to Cop Chase, we only have these tracks, of course, right, as we all know. I'm going to show you how to add in both the European and the US versions, the full list of tracks. I'll do the European first this time. I just have to scroll up a little bit to get to the mess that I mentioned in the previous video when I was adding all the tracks to the single race menu. It's the same exact process in the same area of the EXE. I'm going to scroll up to line 542768. And as I mentioned in that video, it's very important to use the same hex editor that I'm using because the line numbers are going to be different depending on the hex editor that you use. So 542784. Well, first of all, on 542672, that's actually the code that we can copy and just paste it over there. Because these are all the tracks that, it's all the tracks listed in the practice menu that were already there, but this is all the tracks in order. So I'm going to, as I already did, I highlighted it. So the first 2 nulls and then all the way to that Y looking character, the FF. Just press OK. Then it's on line 542752. It's going to be the 2 nulls and onward to right here. That is 4 nulls to the right of it on the 3rd line. And I'm going to paste. Save it. And that should be it. Let's take a look. Now, it looks like the backward direction single tracks are right next to the forward single tracks. So we're going to actually move those to the end after Caribbean forward, right here. So this is Paris and it goes all the way to London forward, and then this is Paris backward. For those who didn't see this track codes list, this is what they are. So these are the single tracks forward and then backward, and these are the circuit tracks. What we want to do is search for Caribbean forward, which is 20. So we're going to cut 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are the backward single tracks. And we're going to paste it after 20. So that's here. So I'm going to paste it there, and let's go take a look again at the game. Okay. So I come here to Switzerland, Egypt, Newcastle, Italy, Caribbean. Then we have the backwards. And then we have the backwards of the circuit tracks. And another thing is the word circuit is in conflict with no arrest or the amount of arrest that you have. So we're going to remove that, and unfortunately it's going to remove it from the circuit tracks here too, but we already know that they're circuits anyway. So to do that, I'm just going to search for the word circuit, and I can say a whole word, and that's here. And it's 7 characters long, so I just copied a null, and I'm going to paste 7 nulls in place of it. Let's go take a look. As you can see, now the word circuit is gone and it looks a lot cleaner. So that concludes this step for the European version. I'm going to do the same for the US version. So the code to copy for the US version is on line 527008, and it's going to go through the 5th character on the 3rd line. So I copied it, and it's going to be pasted here through the 5th character of the 3rd line there. I've saved it, and I'm going to open up the game. Again, I have to buy a car. Why not buy the McLaren again? We have to do the same thing again because when we go here, we have to remove circuit. But let's just see that we have all the tracks. Yep, we have them all. Alright, so again, we're going to cut 5 through 9. Those are the backwards single tracks. And paste it after 20, which is Caribbean forward. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for the word circuit. Whole word. There's only one instance of this in the entire exe. And paste 7 nulls in place of it. Okay, so now the word circuit is gone. Let's see that it has all the tracks and that they're in the order that we desire. Yep. Next, what I want to do is actually change the color of the text here in these menu items to yellow, and I'm going to change race menu to a purple. A quick way to find it is to search for all caps LEDEN and match case. I guess whole word is okay. Here it is. So it's actually here. The way this reads is this is RGB, just like in color codes in Microsoft Paint or wherever. And as you increase this, so that would be 69 would be the next one, and then instead of 70, it's 6A and so forth. So just go take a look at that part of the video where I showed the hex codes, or look it online. If you want to customize this, you have to kind of know how to increment and decrement hex values. So for yellow, which is going to be 255, 255, 0, we'd have 255, which is the maximum, and then 0 would be just 0, 0, but I'm just going to make it a little bit more than 0, so it's not pure yellow, but more like a golden yellow, just a little bit, so I make that 33. This is the US version, by the way. Go take a look. Yellow text. It didn't color this. This is actually separate, so we're going to color this a purple separately. This is the yellow that you see, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase this one to EE. The middle one I'm going to decrease to almost nothing, but not quite nothing, and I'm going to increase this one by a lot to DD. DD is less than EE, for those who don't know. Save it. So now we have that purple. Let's go take a look. Now we can also change the color of this font here, the grayed out font that you see here, as well as when you go to the challenges in different places. And that is actually right here on this line. It's these 328s. So we can decrease it. This is almost black, but it's a very dark gray. So if we decrease it, it's going to get closer to black. Maybe I can just change it to 11. Let's see how that looks. And it's right here at the beginning too. So it's a little bit too dark, but maybe we can just try pure black. So I copy null. I'm going to paste it over this 3 times. Yeah, that pure black looks good. I mean, I guess you don't need to read it. So yeah, that looks good. Or what I could do is take a screenshot of these panels here and get that color, roughly what it is. So I'm going to say copy, paste it in Paint, use the color detector, and I guess we'll go with the darker shade and see what color that is. Okay, so it's 47, 24, 44. So if we go take a look at the hex codes, 47 would be 2F, so 2F there for the first number. Then 24 would be 18. And then 44 would be 2C. Before I make an edit, I need to close the game, so I closed it on the side. Now I'm going to save this. Let's go take a look. Yeah, so it looks pretty good. So the color code will be the same for the European version, so I'm going to quickly make these changes to that one, show you where they are in there for those who have the European version and want to follow along. So I'm going to search for capital, and I'm going to match the case, LEDEN. So here I made these both FF, and then I made this 33. Let's go check it out. Okay, so that made the font in the menu items yellow. That yellow is here on this line, so I changed it to EE11DD for the other exe, so I'll do that for this one. There's that bright purple. And I'm going to copy the code from the US version. It's 4 lines down, it's right here. That was at 328s. I'm going to save it. Let's go take a look. And there it is. Yep, it's all there.